All things Randi at RandiRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
Donald Trump is a scab.
The president of the United Auto Workers didn't just endorse President Biden Wednesday. He also slammed Mr. Biden's opponent for a history of what he described as anti-union policies.
Donald Trump is a billionaire, and that's who he represents.
President Biden had been courting the UAW and its 400,000 members for some time. Last year, he joined striking workers on the picket line, the first sitting president to do so.
Unions built the middle class.
The endorsement could give Mr. Biden a boost in the swing state of Michigan, the heart of the U.S. auto industry. Nationwide, 20% of voters in 2020 said someone in their household belonged to a labor union. 56% of them went for President Biden, 40% for Trump.
God bless the American worker. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Today, Mr. Biden will travel to another swing state, Wisconsin, to unveil another $5 billion worth of transportation projects stemming from the infrastructure law he passed in 2022. The latest outlays include $1 billion to replace the aging Blatnick Bridge connecting Duluth and Superior, Wisconsin. $600 million to replace the I-5 bridge connecting Vancouver, Washington to Portland, Oregon, and $300 million to build a new container terminal in the port of New Orleans, Louisiana.
I mean, how can people say he's a bad president? It was supposed to be infrastructure week every week when Donald Trump was president. Every single week, infrastructure week. Every single week, he was going to save Lordstown. He was going to save the UAW. He was going to save auto jobs. He was going to. Everything he said, go ahead, buy a house. Don't be afraid. This is going to stay. The carrier thing's going to stay. The Lordstown plant is going to. They all closed. Everything. I mean, everything this man ever said about infrastructure, the auto workers, working people in general, was a lie. It was all a lie. It was a scam. It was just, to buy time or something like that, so that you would think he was on your side. But here you have the United Auto Workers Union actually endorsing Joe Biden, and you have a $5 billion announcement today, a $5 billion new investment in even more infrastructure projects all across this nation, all across the country. The Infrastructure Act that passed in November of 2021. This is one of the signature accomplishments. And Biden, actually believes in doing it, number one. But number two, did it to shove it up, who's, what. Because the lying about Infrastructure Week was so incredible and so stupid, because if he would have done it, it would have been a good thing for everybody that lives here. Everybody that drives, everybody that crosses a bridge, every truck driver in this nation that, relies on, bridges between Vancouver, Washington, and Portland, Oregon, or people who, actually, have to work at the Port of New Orleans. Do you know what I'm saying? I mean, these projects are needed. These projects are, I would say, I don't know that they're essential. We were surviving. But these are the kinds of investments you would expect in a 21st century America. And I don't know why, the Orange Jesus stood on stages and threatened that he was going to do it and never did it. I mean, they had the presidency, they had the House, they had the Senate for 2 stinking years, for 2 years. And he never did any of it. And I don't know why. Honestly, don't know why. Maybe he was just inept. I honestly, I don't know why. And I'm not here to relitigate the last, 7-8 years of hell that we've been through, because this man lies. But $600 million is going to be announced today to replace the I-5 bridge between Vancouver, Washington, and Portland, Oregon. It's going to be an earthquake-resistant, multimodal bridge. I'll leave that to, the civil engineers to explain to me. Multimodal. I'm guessing trains and cars. I mean, I'm guessing. I don't know. $427 million to establish the first offshore wind terminal on the west coast of California. $372 million to replace Cape Cod's nearly 90-year-old Sagamore Bridge. 90 years old. 90 years old this bridge is. How else do you get to Cape Cod? Oh, right, a ferry. Okay, good. $300 million for a new container terminal for the Port of New Orleans. $95 million to widen a 10-mile section of I-10 through the Gila River Indian Community in Pinal County in Arizona. $142 million to fix the I-376 corridor in Pittsburgh, including an area famously known as the bathtub due to its regular flooding. $150 million to, this is the most beautiful project ever, okay, $150 million to reconnect communities that were divided in New York by the Cross Bronx Expressway when it was built in the mid-1900s. Guess what? That's one of those projects that they don't want to teach kids about, in the 1619 project or in any history class. Yeah, they don't want to teach, anything about these, projects that were built to, keep, certain people away from other certain people by building roads to divide them. But this is what this is, $150 million to reconnect communities that were left out in the cold when they built the Cross Bronx Expressway in New York in the mid-1900s, which means 1950, yeah. So anyway, that's $400 billion in infrastructure law funding so far. Yeah, that's what that is. That's $400 billion so far on infrastructure building for more than 40,000 projects. And Donald Trump is just standing there, with nothing. Standing there with an empty hand. Standing there, begging you for money. Pay him. It's just so sad. I mean, the amount of progress that we've made, and progress feels good to me. I don't know if it feels good to you. Probably feels good for Jon Stewart, too, to make some progress. Now, you know what Jon Stewart was very busy doing, right? Jon Stewart, it wasn't like idle hands with the Devil's Workshop or anything. I mean, he was very active, Jon Stewart was. Not just in the Apple, the Problem with Jon Stewart series, which was a very stripped-down, bare version of a serious look at the questions that Jon Stewart and others had for our government, and people who are in it, who toil in it and, don't produce anything, like what is wrong with you kind of a show. But that's not what really Jon Stewart crossed my path about in the last 9 years. Jon Stewart was fighting all through 2019 for 2019. Think about this, okay? For those of you who are Gen Zs, in 2001, America was attacked. It was attacked with airplanes, 4 of them, and there were 19 hijackers. 15 of them were Saudi Arabians, but okay. And they crashed into, most notably, the World Trade Center, Towers 1, this North Tower and South Tower. The first responders had inhaled a lot of particles and such that gave them very debilitating, diseases, worse than mesothelioma, like really bad stuff. And in 2019, Jon Stewart was fighting for them to get health insurance.
Clear.
Don't have time to listen to the live show? Want to hear more on your schedule? Go to RandiRhodes.com and buy a stinking podcast.